Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dennae Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast with us today is Carl Gould. Carl, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate it, Dan.
Well, Carl, I want you to get us started and talk to us a little bit about you and your background and maybe share something interesting about you.
Well, I'm born and raised in New Jersey. I don't know if that's the interesting part, but that's where I'm from. And I started my career really by accident, literally. I had a leg injury that kind of forced me out of college at the time. Decided to jump into the entrepreneurial career by starting a landscaping company. And that got me on the road to entrepreneurship. I grew that business for 6 years, and then I sold it. Then I started a construction company, which I then grew and sold in 2004. But the business that I have today, which is my coaching and consulting business, I started in 2002. So I've been really an entrepreneur since I'm 18 years old. I don't know any other way. Not sure I'm employable at this point. I found my niche, and my base is still New Jersey. I live there, have 3 kids, one in college, one in the military, and one in 7th grade. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure that, through all of these endeavors, you've probably had some tough decisions that you've had to make along the way. And that's why we do this podcast, is to really dive into some of those tough decisions, because that's really where a lot of times we grow as entrepreneurs and where we really, start to cultivate the spirit of entrepreneurship in our business and also, helps kind of shape who we are as business people. So the first tough decision that I want you to start us off with is a tough decision that you've had to make that it did not have a good outcome. So it was kind of what I like to call the sore thumb tough decision. Usually, if you've been in business long enough, I'm talking about this tough decision, and you're thinking in the back of your head, I know exactly which one I'm going to talk about, because it always sticks out when you think about that. But you also learned a lot of lessons through it. So you're glad you went through it, but it was still tough, and it also didn't have that good of an outcome.
Yeah, so back in 2010, I franchised my business coaching company. And I did it for 2 reasons. One, because franchisors are our target. I franchised as almost a marketing exercise so that it would gain me access to the forums where CEOs of franchisors would congregate and where they and only they could congregate. And so being a franchisor and being the president of a franchise company allowed me to do that, which that is still an advantage to today. But what didn't work out was when I franchised the company, I stuck with the traditional coaching model, which had already run its course, and it didn't work out as well as I wanted it to, because it, selling coaching services, traditional coaching services, not a management system or a specialized hybrid coaching consulting system, but it just straight on traditional coaching is a very tough sell. And so it led to us having a really slow haul. So I pivoted not all that long after that and changed it, but that was not such a good outcome for me.
So looking back, when you started to make the decisions of kind of going down this road of doing the franchising and various things like that, would you say that, looking back, that maybe you should have thought about it a little bit more, or maybe been a little more cognizant of, or maybe did a little more research on, or, maybe you could have, done a little bit of X, Y, and Z before you actually made that decision?
Yeah, what I would have looked at is the ability of the franchisee, or the ability for them to sell their services, and also the speed in which they would sell their services. That part, I was banking on my ability to recruit as fast, if not faster, than their ability to sell. And there was just too much risk in the model as I look back on it today. And that's what I would have done differently.
So when you say recruiting, that was like recruiting new business owners to get the consulting services?
Right, new franchisees, yeah.
Okay. So when you're talking about the franchising and with the consulting business, you were trying to find other people to help, run a business where they would actually be doing the business consulting.
Correct, yeah. And that's what I would have wanted to have gone a little bit differently. We would have been fine if we could have out-recruited the franchisees and their ability to sell on their own, because it would have meant we would have had a robust enough team. It's not like we would have just thrown them out there to die or throw them out there to not be successful. But what we would have been doing is we would have had enough people in the mix. And the way coaching in the traditional model works is you sell for yourself and you also have the ability to refer others. So when one person comes in, it not only gives them an opportunity, it's a potential opportunity for the whole community. We needed to be able to outpace them, and that's where their challenge came in.
What did you do to try to, fix that once you realized it wasn't working?
The main thing we did was we consolidated the client acquisition. So what we used to do is we used to disperse the leads all amongst the coaches. And then what we changed, and we went to them and we said, how do you want us to do this? We can consolidate this, keep the leads, sign the client, and then allocate the work, or you all can continue to prospect and work and network and sell. And they said, no, you know what? Very much we would prefer not to do that. We'd rather have you do the selling, which I wasn't tremendously surprised by their answer. But that turned out to be, in all of this, that turned out to be the best solution for everybody involved. So I was very thankful for that, but it certainly took a little bit of pain to get there.
What did your team think as you started to make some of these changes and started to pivot?
Well, the two teams, the administrative team internally liked it because we had more control. We weren't trying to, there's a lot of extra logistics in setting up 3 parties on the same appointment and then following up with all 3 parties. Even though there's one extra person involved in it, it was actually triple the work for double the result. And so the administrative team liked it because they had more control over the overall process. The consultants liked it just simply because they didn't have to do something they didn't like to do. Right. And so from that standpoint, there was a lot of good feeling. The challenge really became with the people who were doing the sales, because now the pressure and the amount of work that they had to do, increased significantly. It was all, in other words, it was all on them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's where it became a bit tricky.
Well, let's shift here a little bit and talk about a different tough decision that you had to make as an entrepreneur that had a really good and positive outcome and some of those lessons.
Well, there were a couple. Selling my landscaping company with the time that I sold it was the right move, just because I was ready to move on to my next business, and the same thing with selling the construction company. Those were both good moves, especially personally for me at the time, and I wouldn't change that. What I could say really was probably the best move I made was the decision to get into coaching. I hired a coach for my company in 1996. And, through going through that process, I said, man, I really love this process. I had been a coach all through the 90s as a part-time side hustle. That was before the term, that was my side hustle. And I loved it. And I was, at the same time that I was doing life and results coaching for Tony Robbins and Stephen Covey and Ken Blanchard, I was also running my entrepreneurial company. Well, you put those together, and that's a pretty formidable combination. Now I'm a seasoned entrepreneur. By the time I'm 35 years old, I have 18 years of entrepreneurship, plus I have 10 years as a coach. By the time I launched the business, I had 11. So I had a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and training at that point in my career. So I've never looked back. That was probably my best decision, was to re-engineer my career and, do the work that I truly loved. That was hands down the way to go for me.
What do you like the most about the consulting side of it?
I mean, I like helping people. I like the fact that I get to help somebody out. I like to know that I'm helping them understand where they are now, where they want to go, and how to get there. At the end of the day, that journey for me is totally a charge in life. I absolutely love it, and I wouldn't turn back. So it's actually the process of coaching as much as anything else. There's a funny part to me that I like things that are hard, and I love how hard coaching is and how hard it is to master as a field of study and as a field of endeavor. Because a lot of people can get into it, but it's hard to be good. I kind of like that.
I'll be honest with you and everybody else who's listening that, I've done some consulting before and, I've come to the conclusion that I'm not good at it and I actually absolutely hate it. And I think the thing that I don't like about it the most, and maybe you can help me with this mindset, is that, a lot of times you're coaching somebody and trying to teach them or show them, various options and give them kind of what you feel like might be the best option or whatever. And they don't do it or you show them, because when I do coaching, I have always been the type of person where I'm not going to tell you what's the right answer, but I'm going to give you multiple options so you can see where you think it should fit the most. And I'm sure it's probably just me, because I know there's other people out there that do coaching and consulting and they do a phenomenal job with it. The thing that frustrates me the most is, people that you try to help that don't listen to you and then they don't do anything. And then you're the one that's the bad guy because, you didn't help them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always say that if, hey, listen, if you follow all of my advice and your business takes off like a weed, you're going to keep all the credit. But if you took none of my advice and you did nothing and your business went nowhere, then you're going to blame me for it. Right. So I do understand that comes with it, but I just, it's still, to me, it's just worth it. I feel like I found my calling and, listen, I had a successful landscaping company. I had a successful construction company, but I hated it. I just didn't like it. Like you said, you don't like consulting, and everything's not for everybody. And I feel the same way about the businesses I was in. And although they were successful, I just was not happy, and I wasn't finding fulfillment in my work. And, I was like, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it for me because if I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, there's got to be other ways to make money. I'll figure it out and I'll make money other ways doing something that I love doing, but I just didn't need to be doing it that way.
Well, we wanted to have you also share with us some strategies that you like to do when you're facing a tough decision. Can you share with a few strategies like that?
My basic evidence procedure is tools, treasure, talent, and time. So I look at it and I say, do I have the tools to do this? Meaning, if I want to undertake something, do I have the basic tools, or is this going to require me to totally buy all new equipment, learn all new technology, or does this kind of fit in my core competency, right? Do I have the basic, so when it comes to coaching and consulting, I already had the tools. I had learned NLP and DISC, and I went to personal development seminars, and I got all these accreditations. I mean, I got it, And then I said, all right, so I got the toolbox, and I said the treasure. Well, to launch a business like this, I'm going to need to be able to sustain myself while I grow this business. So do I have the treasure? And I said, well, I've got this construction company, and it's working well. So what if I continued to run the construction company, have enough cash flow, and that'll help me get my consulting business up and running. So I said, okay, I could do that. And for 2 years I did. From 2002 to 2004, I ran two businesses side by side. Not always recommended because I don't think I slept for 2 years. But you know what? I was able to launch my consulting business while not under pressure. I could grow it and launch it the way I wanted to, which was awesome. It was a lot of work, but it was the right way to go. And then the talent. So talent for me isn't always just my talent. Is there talent around me that I can also leverage? Where I was different as a coach and in my coaching business was I took a team approach, the generalist specialist model, where we coach individuals, groups, and companies as a team. And so I surround every client with 4 subject matter experts, a strategy expert, a business development expert, an operational expert, and a finance expert. And so I said, do I have the talent? I said, yeah, I got it. I went to school for accounting. That was good. I know coaching. I've been an entrepreneur, so I know sales and marketing, but I can't do it all by myself. I need some help here. So who will I be able to leverage others? And as I found out, there was plenty of talent around me. So that was good. And then the last thing was time. Do I have the time to commit to this? Is this something that once I get going, is there enough time for me to make this into a significant enough business that I could live off of, as if I were an attorney or an accountant or any other advisor? And the answer was yes. So I run things through tools, treasure, talent, and time. And by doing that, I'll know, is it worth it or is it not?
Those are great little tips there. I actually wrote those down. So it's the tools, treasure, talent, and time. And I think each one of those plays a very important role in making those decisions. Let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll be talking to Carl about a series of quick questions and answers that we call the trifecta. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. And we are back. And Carl, we want you to start with this series of quick questions and answers that we call the trifecta by talking to us about your favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier every day.
Well, so for me, I am now an instant message junkie. Our company uses Slack as our internal app for communication, and we have eliminated all internal email. So we only email back and forth to the client and to outside sources, but internally we use Slack as our tool. And I get it. A year from now that might be like, hey, obsolete. But the idea is we use an internal messaging app, whichever one works for you, but that works for us. And that's number one. Number two is if it didn't happen on the calendar, it didn't happen. So everything, my main communication tool with the inside and outside world is my calendar. It's my personal assistant. It's also my accountability partner. It tells me where to go and how to get there. And so that's what I will utilize. And the third thing I do is I've always had the habit of speaking my notes, affirmations, goals into an audio recording app, and I play it back to myself every day. So my own personal podcast is me listening to me read my goals over and over and aspirations over and over, affirmations over and over. And also I have my core values right on the back of my phone, taped to the back of my phone. So always reminds me, especially when times get tough, what I'm working towards.
So many golden nuggets just in that last couple of sentences there. So looking forward to kind of seeing, what these next two, answers come out to. So what's your favorite quote that you've heard that has helped you as an entrepreneur?
So one quote I always remember from years and years ago, my brother used to say this all the time. He said, nobody ever went broke making a profit. So make sure that everything you're doing has a profit or the promise of a profit attached to it. And Robert Kiyosaki always used to say, a good debt is debt that leads to being cash flow positive. Bad debt is anything that drains your cash flow. So if I'm going to borrow money for an asset that's going to return positive cash flow as opposed to getting into debt just to pay off a past sin.
And what's a favorite book that has helped you make better decisions as an entrepreneur?
There's a couple. One was called The Celestine Prophecy. The Celestine Prophecy was essentially a book about things, there are no coincidences and things arrive in your life exactly at the time that you need them to. So that was definitely one. Another book that I really enjoyed that helped me make better decisions was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was a very impactful book because it got me thinking about my business even more. I also enjoyed Start With Why by Simon Sinek, which it helps me think of things in the sequence I think I need to think them in, as opposed to I would have thought of the why, I just wouldn't have started with it, And so he gets you thinking about what sequence you would be thinking about the right things. So those were things that were impactful to me.
And what's the next thing for you right now on your vision or dream board?
The next thing for me right now is I'm starting to work on my next book. So I'm very excited about that. And I do a fair amount of TV work now. So I'm looking more and more for television appearances. So those are the two main areas of focus for the coming year.
And how can the listeners reach out to you if they want to contact you or follow you more, or maybe even, hire you as their business coach?
All right. So you could find me on carlgould.com. That's kind of the gateway for everything that we do. And we offer to any listener to any of the programs that we come on, we offer something that we charge for out in the real world. And it's what we call the free business analysis. And it's up to 2 hours with a growth advisor. And anyone who wants to take advantage of that, by all means, do that. And we'll make sure that you get hooked up with a business advisor that would help you grow your business. And that's our give back, to the entrepreneurial community. We do a couple of hundred of those every year, and we're very happy to do it.
Well, thank you so much, Carl, for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us here today. Looking forward to releasing this episode. There's a lot of different gold nuggets that even myself, I've actually gleaned from the information that you've provided, and looking forward to continuing to follow you as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur and having you on a future episode as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.